Okay, so you joined me today at Stables Fishery in East Yorkshire. This is a lake I own and run with some friends. The reason I've come up here today is obviously the Amino Smoke's been out there now a couple of months and doing really well. But when I was first given the product, I took it in the studio at DNA and was playing around with it in the tank, with putting it on zigs and putting it on single hook baits. And one of the things that I logged straight away, I thought this is going to be mega for surface fishing. And obviously that time of year was no good for surface fishing, so I logged it and I thought I'm going to plan a day, come down here because there's quite a few fish. It's only a little lake, but there's quite a few fish in it. And shouldn't say it, but I normally get one when I come down here surface fishing. So I thought I'm going to give the Amino Smoke a go and see how I can get on with it. So I fired a few of the BetaStim Floaters out. A couple of seagulls have been down, which is always good. But one or two carp are coming up now. You know, it's the early part of the morning. It's been really hot for the past few days, so there's one or two shadows just cruising around. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up talking, get my kit together, get some rods out there, and let's give this smoke a go on the top. So when I'm surface fishing, I don't actually use a controller float. I do it with over depth zigs. I just find that it's a far better way of fishing from off the top. You're still suspending a bait in the same kind of area, like I've had them like 3 or 4 inches off the top. So it's slightly under the surface of the water. Yeah, I just find it gives you so many advantages. There's no line across the top of the pond. The wind can't move your hook bait. How many times have you had it where your controller floats drifted off as the fish have moved in? So you can just leave them static. You're still feeding them on the top and getting the fish going on the top. And as they're sifting round the surface baits, they come across that zig and they just take it. I've found I get much quicker bites doing it like this. So that's going to be the plan. I've got 2 little stalking rods. 5.5 foot gets you just below the surface on this lake. So 2 5.5 foot zigs. I'm going to fire them out there, keep firing the BetaStim Floaters over the top, and yeah, let's get rigged up. Okay, so I've got a rod tied up. I'm just using a 12mm bug pop-up as a hook bait with some of that smoke on it. And the fish are taking just to the right-hand side of the swim, so there's a tree above me, so I can't cast like a conventional way, so it's going to be a bit of a side flick. Not very orthodox these, but they do the job. Perfect. Okay. Feed them a few more free offerings. See if we can nick one. So this fish took the bait before I even put the rod on the buzzer. That can be the thing with this style of fishing, you know, surface fishing. If you really get them going, which I have done now, can be really good fishing. Well, what a start. We've been on the lake probably an hour and a half, just getting everything set up. And that's one of the things I love about surface fishing. You know, when it's hot and nothing's happening on the bottom, you're not wasting your day just sat in a bivvy looking at buzzers doing nothing. You can get out, get active, and you can make some bites happen. Yeah, he's not a bad one. Come on, mate. Yay! First one of the day. Look at that. What start to the day? Probably about 16, 17 pounds this fish, something like that. Yeah, and I certainly wouldn't have caught him fishing on the bottom, and it amazes me to see, you know, surface fishing. So few people do it these days, or maybe it's just the fisheries that I've been visiting over the past couple of years, but it's very rare you see people doing it, and it's such a fun method to catch carp, and it's baking hot sunshine today. I don't think I'd catch off the bottom, and the way them boys are feeding out there, I think I'm going to get another couple of bites. So we'll get this one popped back, put some more bait out into the swim, see if we can get another one. Now in the BetaStim Floater range you get two different size baits, and what I like to do is bulk feed with the smaller ones and just put a couple of handfuls of the larger size, because the larger size is going to mimic the hook bait and almost get them competing for the hook bait a little bit more. So these are the smaller ones. Pop a few of them in there and then just add a couple of handfuls of the 11 mils. And like I say, when they're pack-manning like they are now, because they're proper having them now, you find that they're sourcing the bigger baits quicker, and that's what I think they do. And with the hook bait being a 12 mil bug pop-up, that mimics the size of the larger ones, which is the 11 mil one. So a lot of the time when I'm using a liquid, I'll pre-soak the bait in the liquid that I choose to use. But I think when you're using the smoke in this situation, you don't want it drawing into the bait. You want it to be just a coating on the bait. You want that smoke reaction to happen as soon as these hit the surface, and that's what I'm doing. So I've just poured some of the smoke on there. Give it a good mix round, and they're ready to go out. Different sizes, absolutely mega. So I'm gonna give them a bit more because there's still fish feed in there, and yeah, I don't think it'll be long before these rods go again. Yeah, I really enjoy this style of fishing. Really active, you're seeing what's going on in your swim all the time, watching the fish moving through where they're feeding, and yeah, that's 2 bites. I'm gonna have some lunch, and I might actually move because there's 1 or 2 fish showing in the swim to my right, so I'm gonna watch the water for a bit, and if they don't move down I might move swims, but we'll see. But yeah, 2 bites. Okay, so the session I was having at Stables was going really well. I had a couple of fish and it was looking really good, but Stables is quite close to a tip, and the seagull population, the entire seagull population from that tip, descended upon the lake, and it became a little bit difficult to fish, and I wasn't going to be there for too long. I couldn't like put bags and bags and bags of floaters out to try and feed them off, so I had to cut that one short, which I'm actually quite happy about, because I have come to a place I really wanted to fish. We're at Welham Lake in North Yorkshire. It's been on the radar in this area for years and years, and for whatever reason I've never been here. They tell me it's good for a floater. There's a couple of swims spare for me today, so without any further ado, let's get on this lake and give the smoke a go on the top at another venue. Okay, so I rang the owner of Welham Lake up yesterday and he said there's a few fish on the dam wall. Now, considering I've never been here before, I'm quite pleased that the dam wall are the first two swims that you come to. We've walked into the swim and quite correctly, there is a few fish in here. There's a wind blowing in from the left-hand side of the swim, so I can drift some mixers across into this bit of flat water that I've got here, and yeah, it's looking pretty good for a bite. So without any further ado, I'm going to mix up some bait, get some bait out there, see if we can get some fish taken. So I'm going to make a mix up exactly as I did at Stables. The majority of them are going to be the smaller BetaStim Floaters and a handful of the bigger ones. Like I said to you before, I find that the fish compete for the bigger ones, and because the hook bait is going to be of that size, it can get you a quicker bite. So I'm going to get that sorted out now, get some bait in this pond and see if we can catch ourselves my first Welham Lake carp. Okay, so I'm going to fish this pretty much the same way as what I did when I was up at Stables. I got the majority of the small size floaters, one or two of the bigger ones in there, and yeah, let's see if we can get some going. And in terms of how I'm going to fish it, I really believe in that over depth zig thing. You know, your controller float's not going to be drifting about, you're not casting all the time. Controller floats tend to drift about and you're casting a lot and disturbing. So what I'm doing is I'm spodding to the left hand side of the swim. The breeze, there's not a lot of breeze, but it's enough to push my floating baits down into this side, and I'm going to target this area where I'm not spodding. Yeah, exactly the same as what I did before. The owner's been down to seeing us this morning. He says it's about 4 foot, so 4 foot over depth zig just off the top. And yeah, let's see if we can get our first bite of the day. Okay, so I've got my little SLK pop-up on there. I've covered it in the smoke. There are 1 or 2 fish going already on the bait. I was going to drift the bait in, but they've come straight up where the spod was, so obviously I don't have to be too stealth mode. I'm just going to drop this onto the area. I have to be a little bit careful because there's a swan and a few birds kicking around, so I've not brought the zig right up to the surface. I'm about maybe 6 to 8 inches below it, so I'm going to avoid catching any bird life, but yeah, we're looking decent for a bite. Well, that didn't take long. Yeah. That's the thing with surface fishing, you get 1 or 2 going and the bunch come in, and they did start Pac-Man-ing a bit, and that zig's just underneath them. And yeah, that static bait, I really do rate it. You only have to use a small lead so you're not disturbing the lake too much, but to be honest, looking at these fish, as soon as that spod landed, they was up on them, so I don't think they're too bothered about it. And yeah, within maybe an hour and a half of being on site, I've got my first Welham Lake carp, so mega happy. Okay, there's a little bit of weed out there, but I managed to pop him out of the weed, and yeah, here we go. Bingo, what a start to the session. We've only been here an hour and a half. We've got our first fish in the net, so awesome stuff. Let's have a look at him. Okay, so what a way to open our account up at Welham Lake. We've only been here about an hour and a half, and soon as that spod hit the water, they were coming up for those floaters, and it didn't take long. Yeah, Welham Lake is really renowned for its commons, and there's some real crackers in here, and throughout the course of the day it'd be nice to get one of the better fish in here, but you know, just surface fishing is just one of them things that I really love to do. It's really active style of fishing, and yeah, we'll have some good sport, and hopefully we'll get into a few more of these today. After the first bite, we thought it was going to be lift off, and although the fish have been feeding quite heavily, it's been quite hard getting this second bite, but it's just after lunchtime now, so we've had to wait a couple of hours before bite number 2, and yeah, we managed to get another one. So we haven't had the biggest of fish so far here, but they're lovely looking fish, and it's really fun fishing like this. I really enjoy it. It's really active, you can see what's going on, and yeah. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to do today is just come down to Welham, have a go on the top and catch a few fish, and that's exactly what's happened. We've had several fish out of this swim. It's been a really enjoyable day, and I think we've saved the best till last. We haven't had one of the really big ones out of here. They go to low 30-pounders now in this lake. This is the biggest one I've had, and I'll take that for a really, really fun day's angling. And one thing I will remember when I'm away surface fishing is to bring some amino smoke with me, put it on my free offerings and on my hook baits, because as soon as the spods land on the water, the fish have been right up from and they've been feeding on them all day, so they clearly like it. And yeah, I think that's what's helped me bag a handful of fish today.